Hey guys, tonight we journey into a world you think you know, but trust me, you don't. We've seen the dungeons in movies. Cold, damp, full of dramatic chains and torchlight. But have you ever truly wondered what it was like to actually sleep there, to survive night after night in a cell built not for justice, but for forgetting? Tonight's tale isn't about grand banquets or kings on thrones. It's about the people left to rot in the stone underbelly of castles during the harshest months of the year. A world of frost-bitten fingers, straw mats that never dried, and the silent war between man and cold. A place where your bed could be the same slab where someone else had died the night before. Or worse, not quite died yet. But before we descend, if you enjoy stories that blend gritty history with a little dark humor and a lot of bleak medieval reality, feel free to like this video and subscribe to the channel. It helps more than you know. And drop a comment, letting me know what time it is where you are right now. I always love seeing the sleepy corners of the world gathering here. Now dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. Wrap yourself in a blanket and imagine for a moment that it's the only one you'll get all winter. Let's ease together into tonight's story. Tonight's journey. Where did prisoners sleep in medieval castles during freezing winters? You're not a knight, not a lord, not even a peasant this time. You're a prisoner. Shackled, forgotten. Somewhere below the dining hall of a castle, where laughter echoes faintly down the stone walls that do not laugh back. You don't know what day it is, or what month. But you know it's winter because you can see your own breath when you exhale, and your toes. You stopped feeling them 2 days ago. This isn't just about the iron bars or the echo of chains. This is about how the human body and mind survives in a space not meant for either. Tonight we'll lie on straw soaked through with meltwater swat lice we can't see in the dark, and listen to rats argue over the last crumb of bread that fell from a dying man's pocket. No pillow, no fire, no privacy. Just the slow, brutal tick of time carved into stone. So if you've ever romanticized castles, prepare to update your imagination. These weren't just homes of kings, they were tombs for the living. And for the prisoner, the cell was more than a punishment. It was a place to sleep, if you could even call it that. And now, the door slams shut behind you. You wake up in a medieval castle dungeon. It's the dead of winter. You are a prisoner. You wake up with a jolt. Not because of a sound. There's no sound down here. It's the cold. The kind of cold that doesn't just bite, it burrows. It's in your bones now. In your teeth. Behind your eyes. The kind of cold that makes you forget where your body ends and the stone begins. You're not sure if you were sleeping or just unconscious. It's hard to tell the difference anymore. You're curled on your side, your knees pulled to your chest, your arms wrapped around your midsection like you're trying to hold your soul inside. But your hands are stiff. You can't feel your fingers. One is cracked open. The blood has dried in a sharp little fan of rust across your palm. Your bed, if we can call it that, is a scattering of straw. And even that's generous. It's flattened into the cold floor, damp with last night's meltwater. A rat scuttled across your leg an hour ago. Or was it a dream? Doesn't matter. He's gone. Probably found a warmer corner. Lucky him. You're lying against a wall, but the stone is so cold, it feels wet. The mortar is cracked. You run your hand along it. Rough, jagged. There's mold blooming up in the corners, frozen mid-spread. The air is thick with it. Not enough to choke, but enough to rot you from the lungs outward slowly, politely. There's no window, just a tiny arrow slit 10 feet above your head cut into the outer wall. It lets in a gray, indifferent light, and all the winter wind at once. You can see the outline of a bird through it. He's not singing. Even the birds have gone quiet for the season. Your clothes are thin. A linen shift and a tattered overtunic someone probably died in before it reached you. The fabric has stiffened. It's damp in the armpits, crusted at the sleeves, and smells like mildew and something worse. Something human. Not unwashed. Not just sweat. The scent of bodies kept in places they were never meant to survive. There's no blanket. Just a ragged piece of wool you pulled over your shoulders, and sometime in the night, it slid away. You reach for it now, but your arms feel like someone else's. They move but slowly, awkwardly, like they've forgotten how joints are supposed to work. Around your ankle, a shackle. Iron, heavy, cold. You've learned to sleep with it, or at least ignore it. It doesn't stop you from moving. It's more symbolic now, like a wedding ring to the castle itself. You're married to this place. You've made your vows. You may never leave. The chain links jangle softly as you sit up, each one clinking like an old man's cough. You brace yourself on your hands. The floor is icy and your skin sticks to it for a moment before peeling free. You can't feel your toes, but you can see them. Bare, dirty, pale blue at the tips. You wiggle them. A couple respond. The rest, not so much. You try to stand, slowly. Every joint argues. Your back cracks loud in the silence. Your knees creak. The soles of your feet make soft, wet sounds against the floor. The cell is no larger than a pantry. Bare stone. No furniture. No bucket. Just a corner you've been using when nature calls, and the smell that rises from it now makes your eyes sting. There's a small wooden door in the wall held shut with iron bands. No handle. No window. Just a square slot at face level, which opens when the jailer decides to remember you exist. Sometimes for food. Sometimes for no reason at all. Once he opened it just to laugh. You look up at the ceiling. Low. Vaulted. Black with soot. There was a torch in here once long ago. The bracket's still there, rusted in place, but the light is gone. No fire. No warmth. Just the bare memory of heat smeared in charcoal stains. You think you hear someone moan down the corridor, or cough. It's hard to tell where the sounds come from. Everything echoes in stone. Sometimes the castle itself groans as if remembering the weight of every prisoner it's ever kept. You are not the first to sleep here, and you won't be the last. You find your corner again and crouch. You don't sit anymore. Sitting means cold in all directions. Crouching at least lifts part of you off the floor. You huddle and pull your knee up again the way you did when you woke. Or whatever that was. You press your cheek against your knees and breathe. Your breath clouds the air. White. Soft. Like smoke. You watch it for a moment. It feels like the only movement you can control. You exhale. Inhale. Watch the cloud. Repeat. You wonder how long you've been doing this. How many mornings have started with breath and cold and silence? Time doesn't pass in days down here. It passes in mold patches, in rat droppings, in frost creeping across the stones like a slow, blind animal. Once a drop of water fell from the ceiling and landed on your nose. It was the first truly new thing that had happened in hours. You laughed, then you cried, and then you laughed again until you forgot why either happened. Your stomach growls. It's not morning in the usual sense, but you've been trained by hunger. This is the hour when food might come. Not bread, not stew, just a heel of something hard thrown through the slot, followed by a cup of water that tastes like rust and last week's torch ashes. You hear footsteps, distant, echoing. You lift your head ears, straining. Maybe it's him, maybe this is one of the good mornings. One of the ones where the cup is full, where the bread isn't frozen. You shuffle toward the door. Not to greet him, but to prove you're still alive. Because in this place, being conscious is your only rebellion. You reach the wall, lean your forehead against it, and wait. The stone doesn't warm to your touch. It never does. But you press into it anyway. Because it's something solid, something certain. And in a room where time doesn't move and sleep might mean death, you take whatever certainty you can get. This is how you wake up in a medieval castle dungeon in the middle of a freezing winter. You don't wake up. You just stop being unconscious long enough to feel the cold again. You've woken in the dungeon. Now it's time to eat, if anything comes, and wash if there's anything left that can be washed. You hear the sound before you smell it. A wooden bowl scraping against the stones outside your cell door, followed by the telltale slosh of water in a dented cup. The hatch doesn't open yet. It never opens right away. It's part of the ritual now. A delay. A warning. The dungeon does everything slowly, including kindness. Then the slot creaks. Rust screams softly as it slides open. A cold draft rushes in like it's been waiting for an invitation. And then without ceremony, a bowl is shoved through. Then the cup. Then the slot slams shut again. You don't rush. That was mistake number 3 days ago, maybe weeks. You jumped for the bowl once desperate. Spilled it. The guard laughed. Left you with nothing. You learned. Slowly. Steady now. Kneel, slide forward. Keep the chain loose. Use both hands. Don't tip it. You lift the bowl carefully and inspect the contents with the cautious reverence of someone who's been disappointed too many times to be surprised anymore. It's a watery porridge today. More water than grain. Cold. Clumped. Floating in it is something dark. It might be a berry. It might be something else. You eat it anyway. Always. There's no other option. The spoon, if you're lucky, is a splintered piece of wood you were able to hide under the straw. If not, it's your fingers. They're stiff, but they bend. That's enough. You eat slowly. Not because you want to savor it, but because you want to stretch it. This is all you'll get until the sun sets again. Or doesn't. The light doesn't always mean anything down here. The taste is bland. Milky, but not in the good way. More like something that started as milk and gave up halfway through becoming cheese. Sometimes it's sour. Sometimes sweet. Today, it's mostly just cold and silent. You chew if chewing is even required. The pieces are soft. Some squish. Some crunch unexpectedly. You ignore it. You sip the water. It's metallic. Earthy. Not refreshing, but not deadly. At least not right away. You've drunk worse. One night the cup had something floating in it. A bug. A piece of string. You drank it anyway. Survival doesn't ask questions. It just swallows. And then comes the next question. Hygiene. You look down at your hands. blackened under the nails, cracked, skin flaking at the knuckles. The backs of your hands are red and raw from constant rubbing against your sleeves or your own skin. You rub your fingers together. It makes a sound like dry leaves. There's no soap. Of course not. Not even a rag. Just a bit of that water if you can spare it. You tip a little into your palm, wipe your face. The water is shockingly cold, like liquid knives. It stings across your cheeks, over your brow, down your neck. You breathe in hard through your nose. That helps a little. You feel a fraction more human, which is unfortunately enough to remember how inhuman this place is. You rub your armpits through your tunic. The fabric feels oily, like old grease and salt. There's a scent to it now, strong, animalistic, like a dog that's been caught in the rain and left too close to a fire. You pull at the tunic's collar, trying to air it out. Futile. You haven't taken it off in days, maybe weeks. Your teeth ache, not because they're clean, but because they're not. There is no brush, no paste, no minty rinse. You use your finger running it along your gums. Sometimes you pick bits of yesterday's meal from between your molars with a fingernail. You've tried using straw. It works, kind of. And once you chewed a piece of bark that blew in through the slit. That was a good day. Texture, flavor, even if it's splintered. Your mouth is dry even after the water. The air in here sucks moisture from you. Your lips are cracked. You run your tongue along them. Taste salt, iron. You're not sure if it's from the food, your skin, or something else. Bathing. That word doesn't belong here. If you're lucky, once every few weeks a bucket comes. A cold bucket, meant for washing, but you've learned to drink from it instead. Splash a little on your chest, your legs. Rub it in. Wipe off the dirt only to find more skin underneath that looks worse. Lice are a given. They live in your collar, in your sleeves. You've stopped trying to kill them. They come back faster than you can crush them. You scratch constantly. It's not even an action anymore, just a rhythm, like breathing. Your feet. Well, you've stopped looking. The skin between your toes feels damp, like it's rotting. Your toenails throb sometimes. There's a spot on your heel that cracks open every time you walk. You've stuffed a rag into the sole of your foot wrap to cushion it. It helps. Barely. You remember warmth like a dream now. A bath, steam, soap, clean linen, a soft towel. You'd give anything just to dip your hands in warm water and feel it loosen the grime. But the only heat in here is from your own body, and it's doing a terrible job keeping up with the temperature. Sometimes the guards throw in lime powder if they're feeling merciful. To clean the floor, they say. Really, it's to kill the smell. You've learned to hold your breath until it settles. Once you didn't. Your nose burned for hours. But the cell did smell better for a little while. Like chalk and death. And of course, you're still expected to be human. You're still expected to eat, to stay alive, to be ready for questioning. Or trial. Or just continued existence. No one says it aloud, but part of the punishment is this surviving in your own filth without becoming an animal. And knowing exactly where the line is every single day. Somewhere far above, someone is warming their hands over a roaring hearth. Somewhere, someone is scrubbing their face with scented cloth and brushing their hair before a polished mirror. But down here, you rinse your teeth with rust, wash your hands in dirt, and call it hygiene. You eat in silence. You scratch without thinking. And when the food is gone, the cup empty, and the cold creeps back in like a tide, you curl up once more on the straw and begin the slow, sleepless wait for noon. This is what morning looks like for a prisoner in a medieval castle. Not hope, not light, just routine, just survival. You've eaten. You've scraped what you can from your skin. Now let's talk about what you're wearing and what you're trapped inside. Your tunic is the only thing keeping you alive, and it's doing a terrible job. It's made of coarse wool, once brown or gray. It's impossible to tell anymore. The color has become a kind of dirt. You've been wearing it so long that the fabric feels more like bark than cloth. Rough, crusty, saturated with sweat, dried blood, and the kind of grime that doesn't wash out because it's never been washed. Underneath, you wear a linen shirt, or at least you used to. Now it's more of a threadbare suggestion. There's a gash down the side from the time the guard pushed you down the steps. The sleeve has worn through at the elbow. The fabric bunches around your armpits where the stench is thickest, the sweat constant. It's stiff with filth and cold. When you move, it scratches. There's no change of clothes, no laundering days, no quiet luxury of slipping into something warm and clean. You get what you're given, or what someone else died in, and if the seams fall apart, you hold them together with bits of string or thin strips torn from your own hem. You've gotten good at that, improvising, making thread from straw fibers, fastening holes with bone splinters. Nothing pretty, just survival. Beneath it all, your skin suffers. Red in some places, gray in others. Patches of rash have bloomed on your thighs and hips where the damp fabric never dries. Your shoulders are rubbed raw from sleeping on stone, and your neck, always itchy, always irritated. A collar that bites more than it warms, and then there's your feet. You wear wrappings, not boots, not shoes. Just strips of cloth, thin wool, or linen looped around your ankles, knotted over the tops of your feet. They're soaked, always, with sweat gutter water and whatever filth pools in the corners of your cell. You used to remove them before sleep. Now you don't bother. The cold burns worse when they're off. You just lie still and pretend your toes still exist. Sometimes, if you're lucky, or if the guards are especially bored, you get a hood, a piece of fabric to throw over your head, a ragged cowl. It does little. The wind still finds your ears. The damp still clings to your scalp. And the lice, oh, they love hoods. A warm little kingdom of their own. You've scratched until your scalp bled. It doesn't help. They always come back. Now look up, because you're not just wearing your cell, you're living in it. It's built into the foundation of the castle, deep beneath the flagstones and great halls. The floor is stone, uneven and slick. It's damp year-round, but in winter it becomes a death trap. Ice forms in the cracks. Cold seeps up from the ground. You try to lay straw, but it goes moldy in days. Rats burrow under it. Insects nest in it. And once you swear you heard something squelch under your shoulder when you rolled over. The walls sweat. Not metaphorically. Actually. Condensation forms every night, running down the stone like tears. The corners are dark even in daylight, and they smell of mildew, old urine, and the quiet rot of everything that dies slowly. There's moss growing in one of the cracks, green even in December. You watch it sometimes. It's the only thing that seems to thrive down here. The door is thick, oak-bound in rusted iron bands. It's warped, cracked, and reinforced with a bolt that only moves from the outside. You've tried counting the nails. You stopped at 73. You don't know why. There are no windows, just that single narrow slit high above your head. Not for light. Not really. Just enough to remind you that the world continues outside. The wind howls through it at night. Sometimes snow blows in. You'll wake with frost on your blanket. If you're lucky enough to have a blanket. Oh, the blanket. Let's talk about that. It's not really a blanket. Just a mat of coarse wool stiff with age. It's not large enough to cover your whole body. You have to choose shoulders or feet. If you curl tight, you can manage both. But then your breath condenses against your chest, and you wake with your face wet and freezing. You tried once to fold it, to double the thickness. It worked, until the lice multiplied. They like warm creases. Now you sleep with it draped loosely, moving it around each night like a sick game of strategy against insects and frostbite. The ceiling sags in places. Water drips. Once a chunk of plaster fell in the night. It landed beside your head with a dull thud. You didn't move. You just stared at it. Welcome to the team you thought. Another broken piece of the building discarded and forgotten. And then there's the air. It's not still. It's not clean. It moves in slow spirals, heavy with breath and mold and decay. You breathe through your mouth now. The scent through your nose is too much. It clings to the back of your throat like something alive, like something watching you. In the coldest nights, the walls seem to groan. The wind outside pushes through cracks in the masonry, wailing like some lost soul that never left. You pull your blanket tighter. You breathe into your hands. And you whisper to yourself, not prayers, not hopes, just numbers, days, nails in the door, steps from wall to wall, anything to remind you that you're still here, that you're still you. But the cell doesn't care. It presses in slowly like it wants to wear you like another layer of clothing, another prisoner to absorb, another life to hang in its stone closet. And so you wrap yourself in your filthy tunic. Press your feet to your stomach. Pull your knees to your chest. Try to sleep with your back against the cold wall and your face buried in your own shoulder. You shiver. You twitch. You wake often. And this is clothing and shelter. No cotton sheets, no hearth, no clean pajamas, just rags and rock, lice and straw, stone that hates you and iron that won't let go. You're not just locked away to rot, you're useful, and that's worse. Welcome to survival work in a medieval prison. The creaking hinges echo like thunder. You flinch instinctively as the cell door groans open. The slot is for food. But this is something else. This is the whole door that only opens when they need something. You, a voice calls out. Not your name. You don't have one here. Just a bark, a grunt, a word that sounds more like livestock being summoned than a person. You don't move fast enough. The guards step in. One kicks your foot. Not hard, not soft. Just enough to make a point. You get up slowly. Your legs scream. Your knees wobble. You feel the shackles shift around your ankle, cutting into your skin. You're pulled out into the corridor. Your cell vanishes behind you, replaced by the long stretch of stone and echoing footsteps. Torchlight flickers across damp walls. Shadows move like ghosts who never left. The air doesn't smell better out here, just different. Less human. More stone. Older. You're not being freed, of course. You're being used. Prisoners aren't kept for mercy. They're kept for labor. It's winter. The castle's short on bodies, and your body broken as it is still counts. You're led out into the courtyard. The cold hits you like a slap. Your breath clouds instantly. Snow has fallen in the night. It's not fresh, already trampled into slush and mud, but it's white enough to burn your eyes after so many days in darkness. Your bare hands go numb again in seconds. Your tunic is damp, your feet are wet, and your ears ring from the sudden open air. The guard hands you a bucket. It's heavy, full of stones. No explanation. No direction. You know the drill. You've done this before. You carry it across the yard, back and forth, over and over. The task doesn't matter. Sometimes it's stones. Sometimes it's water. Sometimes it's empty barrels from one end of the courtyard to the other. The goal isn't utility. It's punishment. It's exhaustion. It's a reminder. You're not just forgotten. You're owned. The other prisoners are here too. Quiet. Eyes down. Some are old. Some barely older than children. One man is missing a hand. He still carries a barrel with the other. One woman has no shoes. She limps with every step, her toes purple and blistered. Nobody speaks. There are no conversations in this work. Just grunts, coughs, occasionally a scream from someone who slipped, or someone who dropped a bucket, or someone who simply didn't move fast enough. You pray you're not next. The work continues. All day. No clocks. Just the sun shifting across the high walls above you. Sometimes snow falls, sometimes rain, sometimes both. You keep moving. Wet skin chafes under stiff fabric. Your shoulders ache. Your back burns. Your breath wheezes like rusted bellows. The guards walk among you. Not always watching. Just there. Like wolves. They don't need to beat you. Not often. Their presence does the work. The threat is enough. And when you're not carrying things, you're digging. The ground is frozen, but that doesn't stop the order. Pick up a shovel, crack the earth, move the dirt, stack it somewhere else. Dig ditches, clear snow, fill holes. It doesn't matter what the task is. It only matters that it's endless, repetitive, meaningless, survival work. The kind designed not to build anything, just to wear you down. You're given a crust of bread at midday. It's hard, brittle, cold enough to chip a tooth. You eat it behind a broken cart, shielding yourself from the wind. Your fingers barely bend. You have to hold the bread with both hands just to keep it steady. A cup of water follows. Icy. You drink it anyway. It burns going down. You don't talk to the other prisoners. Not really. Eye contact is rare. Speech even rarer. You've seen people beaten just for whispering. You've seen people taken away and never returned. So you eat. You drink. You wipe your mouth with a sleeve that hasn't been cleaned since the last decent king died. And then you go back to it. Lifting. Carrying, walking, digging. The afternoon blurs into pain. Your vision tunnels. Your hands tremble. You don't even notice you're crying until your tears freeze on your cheeks. The worst part isn't the pain, or the cold, or the fear. It's the pointlessness. You're not working to earn anything, not freedom, not comfort, not even forgiveness. You're working because they say so, because your body can still move, and because no one in this castle will waste a good death until they've squeezed every last motion out of you. By late afternoon, your joints feel like they've been hammered with iron. Your breath wheezes shallowly in your chest. One of your fingernails has split down the center. You didn't even notice until you saw the blood bright against the snow. Eventually, the guard calls it. No thanks. No words. Just a grunt and a wave. You follow the others in, back inside, down the stairs, through the corridor. Your cell waits, same straw, same cold, same you, except now your body is shaking. Your legs give out halfway to the wall. You catch yourself with your forearms. The stone bruises instantly. You drag yourself into the corner. Pull the blanket over your shoulders. Curl up. Close your eyes. Not to sleep. Not yet. Just to stop seeing. Your muscles throb. Your knees pulse. Your spine feels like it's been hammered into the wrong shape. And you know deep in your marrow that tomorrow will be the same. If you're lucky. Because if they stop calling you for work, it means they've found someone else. And your body, it's no longer useful. It's just a corpse waiting for permission. You've done your labor. You've collapsed into your cell. Now when the stone walls close in and night stretches long, what do you believe in? You lie there in the dark, clutching your wool scrap around your shoulders, the last heat from your body barely enough to warm your own skin. There is no comfort, but there is fear. And where fear lives, belief follows. Religion isn't something you practice in here. It's something you cling to. In a medieval castle dungeon, prayer is not elegant. It's not whispered in Latin or sung with choirs. It's mumbled through broken teeth, grunted through coughs. It's drawn in breathless lines on the floor, with fingers that barely move. It's survival. You don't remember the last time you entered a chapel, but you remember the prayers. They rise now automatic, repetitive, the same phrases over and over, not because they bring hope, but because they bring rhythm. Something steady, something to repeat when nothing else makes sense. Deliver us from evil. Forgive me. I believe. The guards don't stop you from praying. They don't care. Sometimes they even encourage it. Not because they believe in your soul, but because a man whispering scripture is less likely to scream, less likely to fight, less likely to snap. But deep down, even you aren't sure who you're talking to anymore. You picture God as cold and distant now, a figure standing high above the castle tower, looking down but never climbing lower. He doesn't visit the dungeon, not unless something has gone terribly wrong in heaven. And so your prayers shift, from divine worship to bargaining. You pray to saints, Saint Leonard, patron of prisoners, Saint Sebastian for strength under torture, Saint Jude for hopeless causes. You list their names like old friends, hoping one might be listening, hoping one might drop a crumb of mercy through the cracks in the ceiling. But saints are quiet. So you turn to the only gods that answer in here. Superstition. Your cellmate before he died used to scratch symbols into the wall. Circles, crosses, little stars and spirals. He said they kept the devil away. You didn't believe him, not at first. But after he was taken away screaming in the night, you've started tracing them again. Just in case. There's one carved into the underside of your bench, a symbol for warding off nightmares. It doesn't work, but you run your fingers over it anyway every night, like a ritual, like armor. There's a patch of straw you avoid. No reason. It just feels wrong. Too dark. Too cold. You think something died there once. Maybe not a man. Maybe something worse. The rat that bit you refused to go near it. That was enough. The guards talk sometimes. You hear them outside the door. This one's cursed. The last 3 that held this cell went mad. Don't touch the cornerstone. You'll get the rot. You want to laugh. They beat prisoners, starve them, leave them to die, but they believe in ghosts, in demons, in curses passed from hand to hand like sickness. You see it in their eyes when they come to your cell, how they glance to the ceiling, how they avoid the chain hanging from the back wall. No one's used it in years, but no one dares touch it either, because this place is older than anyone remembers, and places like people carry memories. You believe that now, not because someone told you, but because you feel it. The walls remember every scream. The floor remembers every death. The cold, it doesn't just seep in from the outside, it grows from the inside. Like something buried here is feeding it. Something that doesn't want to be warm. Something that wants you cold. Forever. You've heard whispers in the night. Not voices, not clearly, but sounds. Scratching. Breathing. Once you heard someone whisper your name. Except, you never gave them your name. You haven't spoken your name aloud in weeks. Who could know it? The guard swore no one else was in the corridor. That no one had passed by. That he'd seen no one. You didn't sleep the rest of that night. You pressed your back to the wall. You whispered every prayer you knew. And when the dawn came, what little light trickled through the slit above you cried. Not because you were afraid, but because you were relieved to still be yourself. That's how this place works. It doesn't kill you with swords or fire. It kills you with forgetting. Forgetting your name. Forgetting who you were. Forgetting what light feels like. And so you hold on to anything you can. A carved charm from a bone. A scrap of wood shaped like a cross. A tooth from a rat you killed last week. Is it magic? No. Not in the way you used to think. It's armor. And you need armor in a place like this. Even dreams turn on you. In the warmth of sleep, if it ever comes, your mind plays tricks. You see your mother, your child, a river you used to walk beside. You feel sun on your face. Then you wake, and the stone takes it all away again. So you stop hoping and start fearing properly. You respect the dark. You speak to the shadows like they're people. You treat every creak and crack like a message from something older than language. This is faith in the dungeon. Not beautiful, not glorious, but primal. A faith built from cold silence, pain, and the quiet terror that you might stop believing entirely, and that somehow would be worse. Because in here, belief is the last part of you that the dungeon hasn't taken yet. You've survived another day. That means it's time for supper. And maybe if you're lucky, a little company. But nothing joyful lives down here, not even the laughter. You hear the bucket before you see it. Metal on stone. That dull scraping sound has become a kind of music, now one of the only rhythms you can trust. Morning is the wooden bowl. Evening is the metal pail. Dinner. You almost laugh. It's too generous a word. The hatch opens again. A slop bucket is pushed through the door. Sometimes it comes with a spoon. Sometimes it doesn't. Today it doesn't. You drag it closer. Tonight it's stew, or something like it. Thick gray-brown dotted with small, soft chunks. Root vegetables, maybe. Or bread soaked beyond recognition. Or meat. Possibly. But not from anything you want to imagine grazing. You've long stopped asking. You dip your fingers in. It's lukewarm, a luxury. You blow on it anyway, more from habit than necessity. Your fingers tremble slightly as you bring the food to your lips. The warmth makes you tear up, not from taste. There is none, but because it reminds your mouth what heat feels like, however briefly. You eat slowly, not to savor. There's nothing to savor, just to make it last. Sometimes there's gristle. You chew through it. Sometimes there's something hard like a sliver of bone or bark. You spit it out if you can. You swallow it if you can't. And on very rare nights, you get a scrap of actual meat. Salty, stringy, and oddly sweet. You don't ask what animal it came from. You don't want to know if it was an animal at all. The stew sticks to your fingers. You lick them clean. That's all you get. No napkin, no tray, no kindness, no second helping. You tip the bucket toward your lips and drink the last of the liquid. It runs down your chin, drips onto your chest. You wipe it with your sleeve already crusted with yesterday's dinner. The pail will be collected in the morning. Or not. Sometimes it sits there for days, fermenting in the corner, drawing flies. But tonight you're full, and that's rare enough to count as celebration. And what passes for social life in a dungeon, you're not alone tonight. Across the corridor, another prisoner shifts. You hear him before you see him, a cough low and wet. Then the sound of him scooting closer to the bars. You turn your head. He's crouched just like you are. Same wool scrap, same haunted eyes. You don't speak at first. You don't speak often. It's dangerous. But sometimes it's worse not to. Was it stew for you too? He rasps. You nod. Same pot. He smiles. A gap-toothed, tired grin. Well, he says, that means I didn't get the rat tail. You chuckle. It feels like pulling a scab off your lungs. Painful, sharp, but somehow cleansing. The two of you sit like that for a while, not quite talking, just being near another voice. There is no music here, no dancing, no merriment. But there is still something. A joke shared in a whisper. A game of guessing what that last piece of meat used to be. A quiet story told for the third time because what else is there to tell? Some prisoners hum. Not songs you'd recognize, just low, tuneless sounds, like lullabies for no one, like trying to remember the shape of music with a broken mind. You've played games too, rock counting, nail scratching. Which saint will visit you first? Always ends in laughter that isn't quite sane. And once you and the prisoner next door tried to outdo each other in crafting new saints. Saint Thaldric, patron of broken chamber pots. Saint Miriel, who protects you from stew-related hallucinations. Saint Leonard II, who grants one clean fingernail per month. You laughed so hard the guard came and threw water at you both. Freezing, filthy, and still worth it. Because down here, the smallest moment of levity feels like rebellion. Sometimes a bard is brought through, a prisoner from some tavern brawl who hasn't quite lost his mind yet. He sings barely, raspy ballads of lords and ladies of green fields and wine. No one believes the stories. But we listen anyway. Sometimes a priest visits, or says he's a priest. He offers blessings through the bars. Prayers whispered in Latin. You don't understand half of it. But the sound is soft, and soft things are rare. Sometimes the guards are drunk, and that's when the dungeon gets loud. They shout down the corridors laughing. They bang on the doors, taunting. One night they played dice outside your cell. Every time one lost, they'd shove the loser into a prisoner's cell for a punishment round. You remember the screams, and sometimes there's singing. Not from the prisoners. From below. You're not sure if it's real. You've only heard it twice. Once in the dead of night, once at dawn. A deep humming sound, low and sad. Not a song. Not exactly. More like mourning that forgot how to form words. When you asked the man across the hall, he simply said, "Don't answer it." You didn't. You won't. And so you passed the night. Not in joy, not in peace, but in proximity to food, to voices, to warmth stolen in tiny sips. You curl up in your corner again. Your belly is not full, but no longer crying. Your lips still taste of salt and rust. Your hands still ache. Your cellmate across the hall coughs again, softer this time. You hope it's not his last one. And as the corridor quiets, as the stew cools in forgotten bowls, as the stone exhales another gust of frost, you close your eyes and wait for morning. If it comes. The castle dungeon doesn't kill you quickly. It wears you down day by day, cough by cough. And when death comes, it doesn't always knock first. You wake to the sound of coughing. Not yours this time. Someone else a few cells down is hacking so violently it sounds like they're trying to turn their lungs inside out. It echoes off the stone, a wet rattle followed by silence. Then another cough. Then another. Then nothing. You listen, waiting. There's a strange quiet that follows those kinds of coughs. The kind of quiet that settles in when people start wondering if they've just heard someone die. No one says anything. No one moves. You just wait to see if the silence ends. Eventually it does. Another cough, weaker this time. Not today. You're sick too, everyone is. There's no such thing as health down here. Only degrees of illness. Some prisoners shiver under their rags, some sweat through fevers that come and go like tides. Most just ache joints, muscles, teeth, everything. Your nose hasn't stopped running for days. Your throat feels scraped raw. Every breath whistles. You're not sure if it's from the cold or from something worse, something deeper. You don't tell anyone. You don't dare tell the guards. Sick prisoners disappear. They say it's to a healer. But you never see them again. Let's talk about medicine, if you can call it that. There's no doctor down here. No physician with tools. No apothecary with little glass jars and handwritten labels. If someone comes, it's the castle's herbal woman, or the monk, or the jailer's wife if she's bored and looking for somewhere to test her new poultice recipe. You once had a boil on your leg the size of a pigeon's egg. She came with a cloth dipped in something that smelled like vinegar and rosemary. She pressed it to your skin, and you screamed so loudly the rats fled. She called that healing. Then she rubbed ashes on it. You don't know what kind of ashes. You didn't ask. The boil burst 2 days later. It felt like winning a tournament. More common than treatment advice. Rub garlic on it. Sleep it off. Drink water from the torch gutter. Let a leech do its work. One guard swears by putting a hot iron near your neck to draw out the ill wind. Another insists that if you hold your breath every time someone coughs, you won't get sick. He hasn't been right once. You've seen prisoners die with their mouths full of dried herbs, saw one man chew wild sage until his gums bled. Another smeared his body in goose fat, claiming it would trap the illness under the skin where it couldn't escape. It didn't. Now his cell stinks of meat and rot. Death doesn't come with ceremony. It comes like a quiet guest who slips in during the night and never leaves. One morning, a prisoner just doesn't get up. The guard bangs on the door. No response. Opens it. Checks the pulse if he's in a good mood. Otherwise, just drags the body out by the ankle arms, bumping against the steps, head lolling. No burial. Not here. They go to the pit. Yes, that pit. You've never seen it. But you've heard it described in hushed tones. Behind the walls near the kitchens. A sunken trench where waste is dumped, human, animal, and otherwise. Lime is thrown on top, but not enough. In the summer, the smell drifts all the way into the dining hall. They cover it with boards. Pretend it's not there. That's where prisoners go. Nameless, shirtless, dumped like scraps. You don't want to die here, but you know you probably will. That's not dramatic. That's statistics. Very few people leave dungeons alive. Fewer leave healthy. Some are ransomed. Some are pardoned. But most they rot. And the castle doesn't notice. Not really. You've seen what death looks like before it happens. It starts with quiet. A prisoner stops eating. They press their head to the wall and stop responding. They stop talking, stop praying. They sleep all day, moan at night. And when the fever comes, they stop making sense altogether. One man thought his straw bedding was a boat. He kept rowing. Another said he saw his mother standing in the corridor. She'd been dead for years. A woman started humming lullabies over and over until her voice vanished, and all that was left was the tune echoing from someone else's mouth 2 cells down. You try to convince yourself it won't happen to you. You try to believe that, but your body is already telling another story. Your gums bleed when you wake. Your joints ache so badly, it feels like your bones are trying to escape. Your skin has started bruising in places where you haven't even been hit. And your dreams, they've changed. Not the nice kind. Not even nightmares, but invitations. You dream of warm beds, of soup, of arms wrapping around you. Not real ones, memory ones. And when you wake up, the emptiness feels bigger, and it calls. Some prisoners embrace it. They want to die. Not dramatically, just quietly. They stop eating, stop standing, stop moving. The guards notice. Sometimes they intervene. Sometimes they laugh. One guard gave a man a whole piece of bread just to see if he'd eat it. He didn't, just stared at it. Then crumbled it into the straw like he was feeding birds only he could see. He died 2 nights later. They took the bread back. You think about your own death sometimes. Everyone does. Will it be sudden or slow? Will you slip in your cell, hit your head, and never wake up? Will your lungs fill with cold until your breath simply fades? Will the fever come? Will your body finally say, enough, and stop? You wonder if the priest will be called. You wonder if the guards will care. You wonder who will get your cell. You wonder what part of you they'll leave behind. A scratch in the wall. A carved symbol. A smell. And when they settle into the corner, when they press their cheek to the stone, will they hear your breath still lingering? You hope so. Because if you're going to die in this hole, you want someone to know you were here. Even if all that remains is a ghost of breath and a memory of warmth that never was. The castle prison isn't just filled with hardened criminals or enemy knights. It holds the forgotten, the inconvenient, the powerless. And in its darkest corners you'll find women, sometimes children, and the echo of families that will never see each other again. You didn't expect to hear a woman's voice down here, but there it is. Soft, hoarse, whispering a lullaby. Not to anyone. Not anymore. You press your ear to the wall, breath held. Just a few notes, then silence. Then again. A tune older than memory sung by someone who sounds like she's already halfway to the other side. You've learned that the dungeon doesn't discriminate. It takes men, women, old, young, anyone the castle has no use for or too much reason to silence. Women are here, just not in the same way. They're not given swords. They rarely face trial. But they are punished in their own ways. A nobleman's wife who knew too much. A midwife accused of witchcraft when the baby died. A serving girl who rejected the wrong touch. A merchant's daughter whose marriage deal fell apart after someone whispered a lie. You don't always see them, but you hear them. Weeping behind thick doors. Whispering prayers. Laughing sometimes soft, strange laughter that sounds more like memory than joy. And when you do see them escorted down the corridor, their faces bruised, their hair shorn, their eyes hollow, it changes something in you. You realize there are worse things than pain. There is shame. There is silence. There is survival in a place that was never designed for you. Some women survive longer than men. They're quieter, more careful. They know how to disappear without dying. But when they do die, they die hard. You once heard the guards arguing over one. Should have let her go, she was just a healer. She bled out. She cursed us. I swear she did. They burned her blanket afterward, and they scraped her cell clean like even the memory of her was dangerous. You think of her sometimes, and you wonder, did she sing lullabies to someone? A child, a lover herself. No one sings lullabies in this place unless they're remembering what it meant to hold someone. And yes, sometimes, there are children. Not often. Not for long. You heard it once. A baby crying somewhere in the upper cells. A burst of sound so sharp and strange it didn't feel real. Then footsteps. Then shouting. Then nothing. Later, a servant passed by with red eyes and empty arms. The castle doesn't keep babies, but it does forget them. You've met boys here. Young faces' eyes too old for their years, sentenced for theft, for running, for refusing to kneel. They don't last long. Either they adapt quick, cold, brutal, or they fade. Fast. Their bodies can't handle the cold. Their minds can't handle the quiet. And their hearts weren't meant to break this early. One boy in the next cell used to tap on the wall at night. Just once. A single knock, like a heartbeat. You knocked back. It became routine. Tap, tap, silence. One night, no tap. You knocked anyway. No answer. The guard passed by the next morning with a shovel and no expression. And family, forget it. Family is a dream now. Something you used to have, or thought you did. You remember faces, vaguely. A mother's laugh. A father's rough hands. A sister maybe with red ribbons in her hair. Or was that someone else? Memories down here blur like smoke. You hold them tight, but they slip through your fingers. You've stopped hoping for letters. Visitors. Mercy. No one climbs down into the dungeon to say hello. Not unless they're making sure you never come back up. And if someone did care, they've probably been told you're already dead. Or worse, that you escaped, that you betrayed them, that you were never who they thought you were. Oops. The stories castles tell to keep the nobles comfortable. Still, the need for family doesn't die. You find it elsewhere. In the prisoner across from you. In the woman who sings. In the man who shares his crust of bread without a word. You become each other's siblings, parents, guardians. Not with ceremony, but with silence. With presence. You learn who to sit beside when the fear gets bad. You learn who will whisper your name back to you when you forget it. You learn who will lie for you if the guards ask questions you can't answer. And when one of them dies, you don't cry, not loudly, but you remember. You take a piece of their tunic. You scratch their name into the wall. You whisper their lullaby back to the stones. You keep them alive in the only way this place allows. And still there are stories. Stories passed cell to cell, mouth to mouth, of mothers who escaped, of daughters who fled into forests and became witches, of sisters who turned into ravens and perched on the castle roof waiting for revenge. You know they aren't true, but that doesn't matter. Belief keeps the walls from closing all the way. The dungeon was not built for families, but family still finds a way. In whispers, in looks, in quiet sacrifices that no one will ever sing about. And when the cold presses in, when the coughing starts again, when the stew goes untouched and the footsteps never come, it's family you mourn, whether you remember their names or not. Because even here, even now, in the belly of stone and iron and rot, you still know what it meant to be loved, or what it means to need to be. By now you know how to survive the cold. But the harder part, surviving the people. Because in a place this small, this miserable conflict is inevitable, and kindness is dangerous. Afternoon in the dungeon doesn't feel like afternoon. There's no sunlight, just the dim gray suggestion of time shifting somewhere far above. You only know it's the middle of the day because your body tells you so, muscles sore, stomach, turning mind, drifting into that dull haze between exhaustion and despair. But there's no rest, not ever. If you're not out laboring in the yard, if today isn't your turn to carry stones or haul buckets or scrape blood from the guardroom floor, then you're in the corridor, sitting, waiting, enduring. And that's when the real battles begin. There's no privacy in a dungeon, no doors to shut, no space to yourself. The cells are open at the top or barred at the front. You see everything, hear everything, smell everything. You learn every cough, every whimper, every voice. And after enough time, it starts to wear on you. You know the man 3 cells down whistles the same tune every afternoon, tapping his foot against the wall. You know the girl across from you sleeps with her eyes open. You know the old man next door moans a name in his sleep, one syllable over and over, and you hate them for it. Not really, but enough. Because when you're trapped with people this broken, this afraid, this hungry, even breathing wrong, becomes a reason to snap. Fights aren't rare. They're just quiet. A whispered insult during food delivery, a stolen rag, a blanket pulled through the bars and not returned, a bad look, a worse word. You've seen it escalate. One prisoner spitting into another's bowl, one man claiming another's cell while he was out working, 2 women trying to sleep on the same patch of straw, neither willing to give it up. Sometimes the guards step in. Sometimes they start it. There was a day weeks ago, maybe longer, when the guards threw a dead rat into the corridor, just to see what would happen. It landed between two cells. The scramble was immediate. Not for food, for the skin. Rat pelts are warmth. Rat bones are tools. Even the teeth can be used to carve wood or scratch marks in the wall. They fought for that rat like it was gold. In the end, one man had the body, another had the tail, and a third had a black eye. The guards applauded. You've learned to stay out of it. Mostly. You keep your head down. Share when you can. Trade quietly crumbs for cloth straw, for silence, help for help. But trust is a luxury here. People are always watching, waiting. You've seen friendships turn sour in a breath. Cellmates who once sang to each other end up choking each other over a piece of bread. A brother and sister, real siblings chained side by side, fought so loudly one night the guard had to separate them. No one knows why. Some say it was about food. Others say it was about escape. Some whisper it was about death, who should go first and who should be left behind. The guards know all of this, and they use it. They pit you against each other. They reward informants. They punish groups. They whisper lies through the bars just to see who believes them. I heard she's being released. They're moving him upstairs. That one's hiding food. That one's cursed. And it works, because you want to believe it. You want to believe someone's getting out. You want to believe someone else has more than you. You want to believe there's still something to gain, even if it means turning against someone else. That's the most dangerous part. Not the violence. The hope. Hope makes you cruel. Hope makes you desperate. Hope makes you ask, why not me, and then look for someone to blame. There's another kind of conflict here too. The slow, steady conflict between giving up and holding on. You see it in the eyes of the ones who no longer move. They sit in the corner, all day, blank-faced, not sick, just done. No talking, no eating, no reacting. At first you tried to reach them. Everyone does. A kind word, a touch through the bars, a joke, a prayer. Nothing works. They're not gone. Not yet. But they're slipping. And eventually the guards notice. And then gone. No farewell. No announcement. Just a quiet morning and an empty cell. No one asks. No one dares ask. Because sometimes the real punishment isn't the beatings or the starvation. It's the watching. Watching people lose themselves. Watching friends turn into strangers. Watching strangers turn into threats. Watching yourself in the reflection of a puddle and realizing you're starting to look like them. Still, some prisoners try to keep peace. The older ones. The ones who've been here longest. They act like wardens in their own way. Breaking up arguments with a word. Mediating trades. Passing food quietly when someone new arrives. They know the game. They know how to survive. And part of survival is keeping things just calm enough. But even they can't stop the tide forever. Not in a place like this. The dungeon wants chaos. It feeds on it. It's in the cold, in the hunger, in the drip, drip, drip of water from the ceiling driving you mad 1 second at a time. It knows how to whisper in your ear when you're alone, how to fan the flame when you're angry, how to make you forget why you ever cared in the first place. Afternoon fades into evening. You haven't spoken in hours. You haven't made eye contact. You've sat in your corner and listened to the arguments, the silence, the breathing. You've clutched your wool scrap, tucked your knees to your chest, stared at a crack in the stone and convinced yourself it's growing. And you remind yourself not everyone here is your enemy, but no one here is your friend. Not really. Because friendship requires safety. And there is no safety here. Only shifting alliances. Only silence and small mercies. Only the knowledge that at any moment someone might need what you have more than you do. And in this place, that's all it takes. Night in a medieval dungeon doesn't fall. It seeps. It thickens the air. It silences the mind. And it brings with it the cold, the creatures, and the kind of fear that doesn't need words. It begins slowly. The light fades from the narrow slit above. Not that it was ever bright, but now it's gone completely swallowed by a sky you'll never see. You watch it disappear the way a drowning man watches the surface drift out of reach. Then the cold comes. You already thought it was cold. You were wrong. This is different. This is hollow cold. The kind that doesn't wrap around you, it replaces you. You breathe it in. It settles inside your ribs, beneath your knees, into the marrow of your spine. The floor grows colder beneath your body. Your feet, already numb, curl tighter. Your hands shake. You pull your ragged tunic tighter around your neck. It doesn't help. Nothing helps. You try to sleep. You always try. You tell yourself that it's better than lying awake. That dreams, however strange or cruel, are still better than this waking. But sleep does not come easily to prisoners. The straw is damp. The stone is uneven. Every creak of iron, every scratch of rat claws keeps your mind hovering just above rest. And the fear keeps you sharp, because night is when the dungeon remembers how to haunt. You hear them, other prisoners, moaning, crying, whispering into the dark. You hear someone praying loud at first, then softer, like even he knows God has turned away for the night. You hear the distant clank of chains from the far cells, not the metal-on-metal kind, the dragging kind, like someone or something is still walking, still pulling their weight. But there are no patrols at night, no torches, no guards. Whoever is moving isn't supposed to be. You close your eyes. You press your palms over your ears. You hum. You count your breaths. But the sound gets in anyway. It always does. And then there are the rats. You used to fear them. Now you know them. They're smart. They avoid you when you're awake. But at night they come closer. They crawl over your legs, nibble near your face. You keep your blanket tucked tight, but not too tight. They don't like being denied. One bit your toe once. You didn't scream. You just hissed and kicked. It scurried off, but not far. It waited. They always do. You don't know where they live. Behind the walls, probably. Inside the stone. Some say they eat the dead. Some say they eat the almost dead. You believe both. Some nights the castle groans. Not metaphorically. You hear it. The walls creak. The ceiling shifts. Air sighs through cracks like it's breathing. The entire place feels alive. Not with warmth, not with spirit, but with memory. It remembers the people who screamed here. It remembers the blood that sank into the stone and never left. You swear you can feel it watching you. Not the guards, not the rats, the dungeon itself. It listens to your thoughts. It learns your weaknesses. And when you begin to forget your own name, it smiles. And then comes the worst part. Stillness. True, total stillness. No movement, no voices, not even the guard's footsteps above. It is the sound of the world forgetting you exist. You lie awake, frozen, eyes wide open in the dark. You don't even blink, because you're waiting for something, and you don't know what. Death doesn't knock here. It whispers. You feel it in your breath when it becomes shallow. You feel it in your joints when they stop hurting and go quiet. You feel it when you wake and can't remember why you woke. You feel it when you wonder what it would take to stop moving, to just let go. Let the cold take you. Let the darkness carry you. Just once, just for a moment. That's how it begins. You fight it. Of course you do. You curl tighter. You whisper names you barely remember. You scratch the wall not out of madness, but as proof you're still here. You breathe. 1, 2, 3. You think of fire, not the burn, the glow. You think of sun on your skin, of warm bread, of someone's hand, of a blanket that smelled like home. But the memories are getting fuzzy now. You're not sure which ones are real, and which ones the dungeon made for you, to make the fall easier. Some nights you hear someone scream. You never find out why. They're either dead by morning, or gone, or silent. And that's worse. Eventually you sleep, but not like you used to. It's not rest. It's retreat. Your mind pulls back into some dark little corner and hides there. The body stays shivering. The soul wanders. Where it goes, you don't know. And when you wake, if you wake, you're never quite sure what part of you came back. This is night in a medieval dungeon. No candles, no stories, no soft sighs. Just the sound of stone breathing, and the quiet possibility that this is the night you forget what the morning even is. You've felt the stone under your back, the cold inside your bones. You've breathed the air no one should breathe. And now it's time to lie still and let it go. So this is the end of the day, not in the sense that it stops. The dungeon never really stops. Time here doesn't move in hours. It moves in aches, in breath, in the slow return of cold to the tips of your fingers after a few moments of warmth, in the steady dripping of water behind the wall that somehow marks each night like a church bell. But for now, you're done. You've eaten your meal, if you can call it that. You've worked or watched others work. You've spoken or stayed silent. You've made it to another night. And in this place that is the achievement, you curl into your usual position, knees tight back to the wall, blanket pulled over your shoulders. You know the exact curve of the stone behind you. Every chip, every chill, every place your bones meet its surface like old enemies. You try to quiet your breathing. Try to slow your thoughts. Try not to listen for things moving in the dark. You think of the day you arrived, how you looked around with eyes still full of questions, still full of fear, but not the right kind of fear. You didn't know yet. Not about the cold that would crawl inside your joints. Not about the rot that would bloom under your nails. Not about the loneliness that wasn't just silence, it was erasure. You didn't know how it would feel to hear someone die in the cell next to you. To wake up and realize no one even came to check. To realize you could be next and it would make no difference. But somehow you adapted. That's what people do, isn't it? Even in the worst places, the body finds a rhythm. The mind builds walls inside the walls. You stop expecting comfort. You stop needing kindness. You stop hoping for anything more than a clean cup and a night without coughing. You tell yourself stories. You invent routines. You learn to breathe deeply through your mouth so you don't have to smell. You learn how to sleep with one ear open for rats, for guards, for the sound of someone slipping away in the dark. And when the nightmares come, you don't cry out. You just wake, sit still, and wait for your heartbeat to remember it's not a drum. You've lived this full day now. You've woken to pain, eaten in filth, moved stone under the eyes of men who do not care if you die doing it. You've heard the ghosts in the walls. You've whispered a prayer not because you believe, but because the silence is worse. You've watched strangers become threats, friends become strangers, yourself become a shadow. And somehow, you're still here, still breathing, still wrapped in a stinking tunic, still curled on straw that grows damp again every time you think it's finally drying out, still clinging to the last thread of warmth in your chest. And now, you sleep, or try to. Not because it's safe, not because it's comfortable, but because the body demands it. Because if you don't sleep, the madness comes faster, the dreams come sooner, the cold digs deeper. You breathe, slow, shallow, steady. You press your palm to your chest just to feel the beat. Not because you doubt it's there, but because you need to know it is. And you close your eyes. So tonight, as you drift off in your bed, under your roof, behind your door, remember this. There were people who slept on stone, people who breathed mold and frost instead of clean night air, people who died in places that never learned their names. History isn't always knights and banquets. Sometimes it's the quiet shuffle of a chained foot, the slow drag of a pail across a corridor, the soft whisper of a prayer in a forgotten cell. And tonight, you walked with them. You felt the cold. You carried the bucket. You listened to the rats and tried not to scream. And now, thankfully, gratefully, you get to let it go. You don't have to wake up in that cell. You don't have to see your breath in the dark or count stones on the floor just to know you're real. You're here, warm, safe, unshackled. So tonight, as you drift off, remember you don't have to wake up in a medieval dungeon. Sleep well.